Hello people, after just 3 days of investigating a homicide, I found the truth that may soon have me killed, and I'm ready for my funeral if I can get it to the eyes of the public. This is brought to you by the PsychoTutor, the writer of this story and the creator of this world. If you enjoy this, subscribe for more, leave a like, and click the bell to ensure you're getting notifications of when the next episode drops. There is one rule, everyone. After this episode is over, it will help if you type in the comments good or bad, which will let the PsychoTutor know how you want the story to proceed. Well, now that is said, I was having a tough investigation with the lead that can easily have me killed. And I'll explain how. Everything began when my older cousin of mine told me that one of his best friends, Mr. Albert Wright, was brutally murdered last night. Ironically, despite being new, he trusts me with the case because I'm cheaper than the other options, and as far as I know, also because he knows I'm well trained as well as genuine with my work. I actually care. Well, I'm honored to have this as my first case without supervision. This is both a test and personal. He may not have been the best of persons, but regardless, he was still a leader, father, husband, and businessman. I wake up to my cousin Tommy shaking me no less than any earthquake would. Hold on, I'm pleading it for him to get his heavy hands off me. The man obviously had been fighting his tears. Tommy isn't a man to cry easily. I knew something was up. This is serious, and his eyes told it all. What is going on? I anxiously asked. Albert was found dead last night. Albert Wright? Yeah, Mr. Wright. He was found by his teenage son, who in a statement claimed he didn't see the murderer. The boy said all he knew is he heard some noise, and upon going downstairs in their home, his father was already bleeding out in the kitchen. I don't care what plans you may have, and I'll pay you good, and give it interest later if you need it. Please take this case. If not for him or the boy, then do it for me. And much as it is good of a donkey that man is dead. Only because you said please and for the boy. Why would you want a novice like me anyways? I asked Tommy. He responded with pride. Others may not give you the credit you deserve, but I've seen you grow up since you never even knew this was your gift. Honestly, Eric, you're cheaper, but mostly I chose you to get your name to the public for solving a case that so far is leaving the local police clueless. They say so far, this case is unlike anything they've ever seen. Other than the missing farm animals every few times a year. Get dressed, Eric. I'll go get us something to eat. Little did he know I dressed as casual as the other residents of the plantation. It was all part of the plan I fabricated. See how well it works. Everything seemed in the norm on the plantation. Slaves as busy as can be. Weirdly enough, Albert's older brother Benny was overseeing the slaves with Dominic to his side as close as a belt in our pants. I can deduce he is only filling in temporarily to prevent the slaves from thinking up an uprising against the owners. Well, that and teaching the kid, of course. He obviously is the heir. We made our way to the scene of the crime in the kitchen, spoke to the officers that seen the mess before us, and removed the cloth over his body to view what had happened to the once influential man. What a darn shame. Luckily, with me as a detective and Tommy as a sheriff, we both had some different training to make our analysis pretty diverse. This man's torso had been ripped thoroughly. Not through his body, but definitely enough to rip through his intestines. We could both smell and see a bit of his organs, well, what's left of them. It isn't as bad as it sounds, but it is definitely not normal. The crazy part is only one window was broken, and if you looked with detail, most of the glass is outside rather than inside. What does it have to do with anything, Tommy asked me. Well, Tommy, if a window was used as both an entry and exit, then that would mean the window would have been broken from the outside, pushing the glass mostly in here as force is being pushed towards the inside, right? The glass inside should range across the room depending on the amount of force or method used to break the glass, which in this case is mostly a large object due to the large hole and lack of blood on the window around it. Now, we don't see any hanging glass. We don't see any other signs that it took more than one hit from the impact. So we could suggest that it was one very hard force with the large object, which is the reason for my deduction. We can look at the shape of the glass and there's not much hanging glass at all. You can also look at the shape. It doesn't appear to be multiple points of force. It's really just one big hole. So that's my beginning hypothesis towards this scene. Anyways, the problem with this entire scene here is only one piece of glass is at a distance inside. And if you really look at it with the curvature in it, it isn't even from the window, but likely from a glass cup or bottle. By then, Tommy walked outside to confirm my suspicions, then telling me, looks like I owe you some cool points, Eric. There's a lot of glass out here, and right as I wanted to say it, he interjected his comment. So by this, we can conclude that there has to be another way of suspected entry. Leaving the scene is only proof that the window was an exit, not an entry point. So with that said, Eric, where's the problem with that being confirmed? Let's relate this to the statements given to us from the officers who arrived before us. Aside from this room, there is no evidence that there was any forced entry, which would suggest that the suspect must have snuck into the home since there was also no obvious damages that can conclude otherwise. And what's wrong with the possibility in your opinion, Tommy asks. If you think about the structure of the plantation, why would Albert have any reason to leave any doors unlocked, even if he was outside? I mean, only reason would be if he was, doing something that doesn't take long, like checking on the slaves or making sure everything outside was quiet and in order. Which still would mean Albert would be vigilant of the house enough to know if anyone was trying to sneak in without his knowledge or permission. Tommy didn't ask me. Okay, so that is already a suspicious variable. They would have to know Albert's routine or be watching him prior to him making his short walk outside of the home at a location that is both close enough to get in the home and provide suitable cover before their entry. Even if they snuck in, we can only imagine how challenging it would be for them to get in without Albert knowing. That's not it though, Tommy. What would the killer's motive be? No items were missing other than a bit of food in the kitchen. Based on the evidence, the individual risked his or her life to supposedly take the food when they could have been shot or left to die or arrested. Imagine if the killer was a slave, which is my hunch. The risks are even higher. Food couldn't have been the only motive. It may have been collateral in this murder. Tommy then responded, so you're saying this was intentional? Precisely is what I'm saying. I mean, we can obviously tell it was an accident. Who comes into a home, sneaking in by accident, killing someone, and then running out? It sounds preposterous. So I pretty much have thought of a plan to expose the slave if that is the true culprit. If a slave did it, then I'll have this entire case solved within a matter of a week at best. All I need to do is let the population of them point out the culprit for me, and from there I will have the primary suspect. Really, all we have to do is narrow it down from there. So we'll work our way out. We'll start in the plantation, work our way from the slaves. And if we discover through my experimentation that the slaves aren't the answer, then we'll know it's most likely somebody either within the vicinity of this town, or who knows, it might have been just a robber who caught a lucky night. But I highly doubt either of those are the case. It's really mostly the slaves, and that most likely is our answer. Benny, Dominic, and the household are the keys that make this all easy for us. And how's that, Tommy asks. Get Benny and we can go out to work so I can really go about showing you all how. We didn't know it at the start of this morning, but this case got twisted really quickly as we investigated the crime scene for evidence. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. But as I try my plan, the truth to my fear will surface. It may not have been a person who caused a bizarre murder, possibly the same killer that has been attacking the farm animals every year. And as fictitious as it may be, I've done some reading as a child, things that my parents have showed me. If my suspicion is right, our best solution wouldn't even be to arrest them. It would be to take out the killer and eradicate them before they can eradicate us. This would be exactly like the very stories of the Salem witch trials that we all thought was fictional to begin. If I die by this, all I ask is to be a martyr that actually succeeds in his plan. In the end, the righteous will succeed, and I put my life on the line to assure that. Hopefully Tommy doesn't become a collateral as well as myself. Wish me luck.